Our next guest has joined us many times over the past few years to talk about some of the worst ways that technology has warped and manipulated society, the worst outcomes from it. But I feel like the topic we're about to talk about today might be one of the worst instances of that. So, although it's not great news, welcome back to the show, senior reporter for HuffPost, Jesselyn Cook. We're always glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to. And so we're talking about an article that you wrote. Basically, I don't know exactly how to word this. Like, it's a new form of deepfake. So you've been on the show before to talk about deepfakes. What is new about what you're cataloging in your most recent article?
I wrote about a nudifying tool. What it does is it allows users to upload a photo of any woman. Could be a celebrity, could be your neighbor, your classmate. And this technology will strip that woman naked in the photo and send it back to you instantly. And the reason that this is new and especially dangerous is that this technology is at a far more advanced level than we've seen before. Some viewers may recall a couple years ago, an app called Deep Nude went viral, and it did exactly this, but it was pretty glitchy, and you could usually tell that the photos weren't real. But this tool, which it's got more than 40 million hits this year alone, these photos look exactly like naked images, and that's what's so scary.
And so the fear is that they could be distributed, they could be sent to people, and we already know from past things involving deepfakes and revenge porn and all of that, the damage that can do. And so basically the issue here is it's easily accessible and it seems to be getting better at doing what it wants to do.
Exactly. Even just a few years ago, if you wanted to create artificial porn or an artificial nude of someone, you would need to have incredible Photoshop skills, a lot of time, a lot of effort, or have to pay someone with those skills. But now this website is free. I'm not going to name it for obvious reasons, but anyone can go on, anyone can use it. And the easier this technology gets and the more convincing it gets, the more women are going to be harmed by this.
So I have to imagine this sort of thing in app form would run into issues with Apple and Android not being willing to post the app. Right now it's available online. And I think in your original article, it's been a little bit since that came out. You talked about the possibility that the sites might be taken down. Has there been any progress on that?
Yeah, the first web host provider, I reached out to them for comment ahead of our article publishing, and they took it offline right away. But as is the case with,
that's awesome.
Yeah, well, as is the case with many harmful websites, the Daily Stormer being one of them, as we saw in the past, it's really easy to just pop up with a new web provider, and that's exactly what happened. The site was back online within 24 hours, and even if this latest web host provider takes it down, it's a small Finnish company. There's nothing stopping it from bouncing right back up again.
And so I guess the fear would be that there could be many other potential ones who would do that. I remember in the wake of your article, I read about reporting that there were politicians who were talking about doing something legislatively about this. Obviously, it's not just a US problem, it's an international thing, but has there been any movement in that?
In the US specifically, it seems like politicians' focus on deepfakes has been almost exclusively looking at the potential for political chaos. Ahead of the 2020 election, there was a lot of fear that there could be a deepfake video of Trump or Biden that's very convincing that goes viral and could skew the election results. And so politicians were up in arms about that. There was a lot of concern. We had our first ever congressional deepfakes hearing back then, but when that didn't happen, people just stopped talking about it. And it's frustrating because long before people even knew what the word deepfake was, or before any of us were talking about it, women were already being victimized by this technology, and they will continue to be victimized by this.
Well, and presumably, if, as you're saying, the technology is more sophisticated than it was a few years ago, while immediately it's being used in this particular way, in theory, it could be used in some sort of political way, I'm assuming. Is that a fear that, basically what I'm getting at is, have we had instances where this tool is being used to blackmail people, to get people fired from their jobs? Obviously, those are very justified fears. Have we seen the beginnings of that already?
Yeah, we've seen a couple cases of that. Viewers may be more familiar with, there were some deepfakes of Mark Zuckerberg that went viral, and I think that really scared people because it really did look like Mark Zuckerberg in video form talking to the camera. There was one of Kim Kardashian, but there have been some cases of women, revenge porn cases. You no longer need your ex's actual nude images to blackmail her. You can just make them yourself. And so I'm sure we're just going to be hearing more and more of this.
Yeah, and as of right now, what you're talking about is mainly photography, right? It's still photos. I'm assuming, what comes next, I assume, would be transferring this to video, as some of the deepfake controversies have been in the past.
Upsettingly, deepfake porn videos are very real. They've been around. They're also getting better. There are actual deepfake porn forums where men will upload source material of a certain woman and pay each other to create these videos. I wrote about that a little while ago too, and the videos aren't quite at the level of believability as the photos in this new tool we're looking at, but we're just getting closer and closer to that reality.
And again, I assume the solution would be that the places that are hosting a forum like that, let alone the websites they're producing this from, would in theory do something, but who knows if that's ever going to be an actual solution. In any event, as always, we appreciate your work in this area and for coming on and talking about it. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.